Just do it on the show.
Do we really? Hey, yeah, Jake finally joins us. We're coming up 45 minutes late because the mountain grizzly bear. Hey, everybody, welcome to UGASports Live Podcast. My name is Rodney DeBulsi. I'm joined by Mountain Man Jake Roos, Working Man Dane Young, and of course Hall of Famer Jim Donnan. I'm sure everyone missed us last week, but we have to take 1 week off to enjoy the holidays and actually cover the Peach Bowl. So a lot going on with the Georgia program. Guys going pro, guys deciding to come back, guys transfer portal rumors, coaching rumors. Man, it doesn't stop just because Georgia played its last game of the 2020 season. So we have a lot to talk about this week's show. Big shout out to our sponsors, Academia Brewing Company, Masada Leather, Aaron Overhead Garage Doors, Europi, Athens Ford, DR Construction Maintenance, all the folks that keep up with us and allowed us to be on the have the podcast just about every week last year, and we look forward to continuing those sponsorships. But if we're going to do that, you folks have to go into those locations or shop on them online and let them know that you heard about them on the UGASports Live podcast. I mean, they're all great friends of ours, but at the same time, it makes them feel good if they're actually sponsoring us for you to say, yeah, I heard about it on the podcast. So please do so. And if you would give us a 5-star rating on the podcast, that would help. It helps the algorithm for our show being suggested. So if you missed the watch along show with Coach Donnan and Dane and myself, you missed a lot. That Peach Bowl game had everyone very tight for a while. But Georgia pulls it out at the end. And for those who missed it, Coach, kind of give us the recap of how this went down. I mean, I know there was talks about motivation. I think Jake pointed out, Georgia seemed this year to play one bad half, one good half. But that second half, the way the defense stepped up after the long touchdown drive on the first drive, the defense went lights out, and then all of a sudden the offense started clicking, and we saw a different second half there. What was your take on this Cincinnati game, Coach?
Yeah, the whole year is just an anomaly from the standpoint. There's no way to really analyze anything about whys and what, and compare it to the past. But I think just going in, knowing that we were, a different team as far as the personnel being employed in the game. For example, a guy like Brini is a really good story. The guy's hung around, played special teams, done what he's supposed to, kept his nose clean, and he's been a safety his whole career. And last week with the injury to Webb, which I hadn't heard was happening, but obviously you did because you told everybody. But Webb opted to play, and then he hurt his foot again. He's been bothered all year. So we were left with a situation who to play at star. If you play Stevenson at star, you take away a corner. Right. Because both your corners at that side were out. Stokes and Daniels opted out. So they decided to take the lesser situation and put Stevenson out wide and put Brini in there and let them kind of on the job training. And you could see as the game progressed, he got a lot more confidence, played the ball in the air better, tackled extremely well at the point of attack. So that coupled with our left side of our line changed all the way, moving Schaefer to right guard, moving Stallier inside, and playing Xavier Truss at left tackle. Just gave us a different look. And they, we talked about Mississippi State during the watch along, just gave us a lot of trouble with that 3-3-5. And the same thing with this team. They really dared us to throw the ball and stopped our running. And but I just think I'm just giving our staff, our players, everybody a lot of love from the standpoint they hung in there and won the game against a good team. We didn't play our best game for sure, but we certainly got the W. And, when you look at the season real quickly, we had 30 to 35 guys, maybe 40 guys test positive between June and end of the year. We only had 2 guys miss a game that were really either starters or guys that played significant minutes on special teams. Speed missed the South Carolina game, and Trayvon Walker missed the bowl game. He tested positive on Thursday. So when you look at that, you just congratulate our staff, players, everybody, and what they went through all year. But to be able to go through and not have a game canceled because of Georgia, even though we had two with the other teams, just is significant. But getting back to that, getting that off my chest, I was just happy that we got the W to go into spring. We're going to talk about some of these opt-outs. We're going to talk about JT's future and all that. But realistically, it was a game that's a lot easier to talk about knowing that we won it than if we would have been very low if we lost it, because you'd have spent all the time talking about the what ifs and everything. So sometimes some of your best wins are ones that you're supposed to win, but you almost lost. You know what I mean? So it went from being outhouse to penthouse as far as the victory.
Dane, you did the film breakdown with Brent Rollins, who maybe we'll keep Brent on staff. We're gonna have to reevaluate that whole PFF coach of the year. Yeah, that connection there. We're gonna have to have a talk with Brent and the pro football folks.
Why is that? Tell our audience why.
Well, no, Pro Football Focus named Dan Mullen as coach of the year.
That was voted on in July, though. It couldn't have been on how you finished the year. I mean,
they have like 3 straight losses or something.
He did, and they fired their secondary coaches, and Todd Grantham's probably coming back, and also he's talking to NFL teams, it appears. So a lot of good times down in Gainesville.
I'm sorry, I don't believe the NFL rumor. I believe his agent thinks he's talking to NFL teams.
You can't blame him for going to the NFL knowing he's going to have to come back and coach that team.
Poor Christian Robinson, man.
Yeah. Hey, let's get Agent Robinson out of there. Kid needs to. But hey, here's the thing: struggling makes you better, and Christian Robinson is going to be one hell of a coach. And I'm hoping that when y'all mark this down, that when he's a head coach somewhere, that he'll give me a job, because I'm sure I'll need it by then. Dane, you and Brent did the breakdown of the game, and you pointed out some great plays, some awful plays, some great execution, some bad execution. Kind of give me your thoughts on the whole game.
Well, first of all, I think the play of the game is obviously Tyreek Stevenson's deflected pass. And that play in particular, you just look at it and say that is impeccable coaching for how to recognize what's happening and then how to make that play without drawing a penalty. There was a couple, weird coaching decisions on both sides that had to lead up to that moment. But to get to that moment and Tyreek making that play, you take a great athlete and you coach them up and you have them ready for that, and good things happen. And so I expect, the same thing from him next year, because he's going to be a leader in that secondary. He'll be one of the veteran guys in that secondary, and it seems like he just got here.
The thing about people say about that play, it reminds me of the deal about the Bear Bryant story, when this kid threw an interception and the guy was going for a touchdown, and the kid was really slow and he caught him. And, after the game, the quarterback was asked, said, "How in the world could you catch that guy?" He said, "Well, he was running for a touchdown." And said, "I was running for my life." We get him. Well, same thing with Stevenson. From what I understand, talking to some of our coaches, he really had a bust in the secondary. He was supposed to be playing that guy, and he ended up having to redirect on him. He was playing the flat instead of the man, and so he was playing for his life, really, and he made that play of his life.
Yeah, and when he gets his arms in the air like that and just waves at the ball rather than making contact with the player, I know that that's actually been something a lot of fans have looked at in the last couple of years and say, well, why are the defensive backs taught to do it that way? Because a penalty loses the game in that situation. And so you can't be over aggressive. You have to play against the ball in that spot, and he did so beautifully.
You talk about being over aggressive, Jake. The officiating in that game was garbage. And I have a long running issue on this one, but even if you were they're just of the mindset they're just doing the best they can. Come on, man, that was heinous.
Well, I mean, you're talking
all the way across. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is just a Georgia thing.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was terrible. I mean, it was a horrible job officiating. You got to really feel for the ACC after their bowl performance and also the ref performance in that game. I mean, it was just, yeah. I mean, things didn't make any sense. It was the whole thing was just off kilter. That's really how it felt. You kept waiting for the next thing to fall. And it felt like everybody was on both sides was going, okay, I guess. But overall, I thought that it was an interestingly played game. Like we've talked about, like we've talked about. I mean, it was a tale of two halves, man. I mean, it really was. And I really thought Georgia came out in that second half and kind of scared everybody with how they were performing right off the bat. You allow the big kick return. You have some stalled drives, a turnover. I mean, it looked pretty grim, I thought, to start the second half. Kudos to Azeez Ojulari, man. Talk about a guy that they're going to miss next year, the closer. Just absolutely, just almost single-handedly switched the tide of that game. Very tough to do from a spot like that, but that's why he's getting first-round consideration for sure.
And one thing you can point out too, and give some kudos to Dan Lanning and Kirby, I'm sure was involved with it. But when you got a game like that and you're playing against a team and you really you don't know their firepower or not, and what we don't have. We don't have a guy playing star that's played. You've got corners. You don't have Monty Rice. You don't have Walker rushing the passer. So you have a tendency to maybe alter your thinking a little bit. And you notice as the game started out, we were playing off the receivers. We were playing very cautious, weren't putting a lot of pressure on them, not the Georgia style, more of bend and don't break to try to not give anything to Cincinnati. And except for the one turnover where we had the bad punt, I call that a turnover, 4-yard punt, and the end of the half drive where the kid just made every kind of play he could make. Defense handled it okay, but there just came a point in the second half where they said, hey, say goodnight, Gracie. We're going with the Georgia way. And we came with a lot of pressure, played more man, on the corners and just attacked their team and overpowered them. And they were kind of helpless there in the second half, I thought.
I'll tell you what, too. I came away with from that game with a ton of respect for Desmond Ridder. I thought that he played lights out. I think that kid did everything that you could have asked of him. Really excited to see how his future progresses because he looks like the kind of athlete that can help an NFL team.
He gave their team a chance to win, but he didn't do anything in the second half to help them win. So, it was kind of a tale of two halves, but he definitely showed you what the advantage is in having a mobile quarterback against a very good pass rushing team. And that's where the negative is on JT. He cannot move around against pressure, and hopefully this this next surgery has minor will help him a little bit on that. But it was pretty evident. And the other thing that was just abysmal for us, which we talk about all the time, 3 more plays. When you make a first down on third something or fourth down, you got 3 more chances to attack defense. 1 for 11 on third down, and still win the game. That's hard to believe. We were 1 out of 11 on third down, and that's just not, the last 4 games. That's been something we've been golden at. And when Bennett was quarterback, we were among the leaders in the country on third down conversion. So that hurt us in this game, not making the third downs for sure. And then we went for it on fourth down to that little flat pass to Kieris, and there was a little bit behind him. He didn't throw it in time, but overall, just, hey, thank your lucky stars. You got the W. Let's talk about the future now. That's what we need to talk about.
It would have been
we led the team is going to win a national championship more than likely 24-20 at half.
It was I thought that, as ugly as it looked at times, I think everybody's got a lot different narrative going on today if Georgia drops that game, and that makes for a long, long off season.
Oh yeah, and you've seen all the comparisons to, Mark Richt's last 5 years and Kirby Smart's first 5 and all that garbage, and it's just you're right. There would be a completely different narrative, and I think although Coach gets on to me all the time by saying, why don't we use this guy more? Why don't we use that guy more? Why don't we throw to this tight end? And he always points out, you got to convert those third downs. When you only have 56 plays instead of 75, 80 plays, you're not going to get it to those guys. And I'm like, yeah, well, get out of here with your facts and figures and reasons. I'm still ready to bitch about tight ends. So it makes a good point when you go 1 of 11.
We threw the tight ends more than any game
Oh, I know. I'll just say that if it's not the tight ends coach, I'll be complaining about James Cook, or I'll be complaining about somebody else. And you always say, look, you gotta have the plays to get it to those guys. If you want to see more,
this would have been a game that James Cook would have flourished in, because he's so good. We watched the Missouri game when they pressured coming out of the back. He's so good reading the hot linebacker, coming off the edge, doing everything that we could have used him. And McIntosh is pretty good at it, but everybody knows Cook is just golden at those kind of things. Throwing the ball to him in the flat. The pass we threw to Kieris would have been thrown to him. The over the middle pass to McIntosh, who caught one to help us set up the last touchdown. But we did throw to Fitzpatrick down the middle on third down one time, but it was behind him a little bit. And those big guys got to work in the off season, working with their body carriage, being able to change direction a little bit, because every pass isn't going to be perfect. So you got to work on that. But I think that's going to help us.
Well, if you're looking for something perfect, I would say swing out and check out our friends at Athens Ford. They have those the perfect deal for you when you head out there. You're going to get that $250 off coupon if you just go to their website. If you want to go out there and get service done, you can set it up on their site. It's like, hey, schedule it when you want. What do you want done? What vehicle do you have? Here's what it's going to cost. It's so easy to set it up that way. And you set up on your schedule, then you go out there and get your service done. You stay in a immaculately clean service area. It's not like the technicians have been coming in there, sitting in their oily boots everywhere. It is, you could probably have surgery out there. I mean, it's just, it's perfectly clean. They have snacks, they have drinks, they have coffee, great Wi-Fi, better Wi-Fi than probably anybody else has on this call in here. So swing up by, check out our friends at Athens Ford. And they have new deals. They have the Ford certified pre-owned, and every vehicle you get out there is going to have a lifetime powertrain warranty. You don't find that anywhere else. So check out our friends at Athens Ford, get the lifetime powertrain warranty on any new or pre-owned vehicle. Again, if it's a pre-owned vehicle under 80,000 miles, you're going to get the lifetime powertrain warranty on it. You can't beat that. And also give a big shout out to our friends at Masada Leather and gifts. I know Christmas has just passed, but there's still a ton of gifts that you need to get. And I always talk about how the fact that they're in 5 Points and you can swing by Athens 5 Points are between Earth Fair and the Royal Peasant. You can also shop online. You can shop their belts online, their wallets, their passport holders, all that great stuff they have. Just go to masadaleather.com and you'll see all the stuff that we talk about each week. And I know I've got a brother that has a birthday in 2 days. I've got a wife that has a birthday in 2 months. Mine's next month. And I'm just saying, it's just because Christmas is over doesn't mean you don't need gifts, and you don't need sandals. You don't need the customized Birkenstocks. You don't need belts. You don't need jackets. You don't need jewelry, all the type of stuff that you won't be able to find the stuff anywhere else, but you can find it online. So you don't even have to go down to 5 Points and get it. They will ship it to you. So check out Masada Leather and Athens Ford. And as Coach says, if you're looking for perfect, those are about as perfect as they get. Jake mentioned
24. You know what 24 is?
No, sir.
24 days for the old coach's birthday.
Oh, the countdown is on. 3 weeks, 3 days. Here comes Coach's birthday.
Bones led the big parade. That's going to be 76, man.
I don't believe it. You say that. I wish I could be half as active as that.
All right, let's get what we got.
We talked. Jake mentioned Azeez Ojulari and his 3 sack, 2 fumble performance. The guy just letting everybody. He's going on to the NFL as expected. Trey Hill announced yesterday that he's going to the NFL. We're kind of expecting that. We'd heard that over the last few days that he was going to leave. Eric Stokes is gone. I think who else has opted out?
Malik Herring this morning.
Yeah, Malik. He's a senior though, so.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so he's basically said goodbye. He's not coming back for his 5th year.
Actually, you got 3 guys left. You got Tyson Campbell, Jordan Davis, and White, or maybe,
White.
But those would be the ones.
Those are 3 that we're kind of watching now. So,
I think.
What do you think, Coach?
I think it's 50-50 on White, and basically, I think he would be back if he hadn't had to, both legs operating on. I mean, the window of his career is just so limited based on that percentage-wise. Obviously, he's really turned it around since the second surgery, and be great to have him back. I mean, I think it's look at it both ways there. I mean, he's not one of the top rated guys, but he's going to make it in the pros because he can catch the ball. He's great on special teams. He's tremendous straight ahead power guy, and he's got the speed you need in that league. So he's going to make it, but he probably would need a really good combine to jump up and get, because they just don't take backs that high anymore. I mean,
Right.
Swift, we thought Swift was all world, and, he got like 32nd or 33rd pick. But, and then Davis, boy, he's a guy that's just intertwined with the program, loves college football. I think that's got to be to our advantage. But
how about him blocking that kick?
He made that one play the other day beside that where he just chased the guy down and just helps him. And then, of course, Cook, we just don't know. It's kind of up in the air about him too. And then Campbell, you just got to think all these projections, the way he can cover. And as soon as he gets interviewed by any team, they'll probably offer him the general manager's job. We don't get to see these guys. He's very articulate. He's very genuine, tremendous team guy. He's going to be a corporate president someday. I mean, you just can't get a better rep for your program than this guy. He's just he's awesome. And there's a lot of them like that. But and then, there's been some conjecture about JT Daniels. I mean, come on, realistically, you got to, first of all, look at the pool of who's out there.
Yeah.
You've got Lawrence, Fields, Wilson, that Trey Lance from North Dakota State. I mean, you could go on and on. There's 5 or 6 guys maybe in the first round, and he's got nothing but upside here with us, with the receivers we got coming back, with the line. But anybody in Dog Nation or Dog Van or Dog that's got any sense to think that he could go get drafted based on his lack of mobility right now has got to be smoking some serious weed.
Well, let's talk to Jake then.
I'm telling you, I'm a big. This guy saved our season. I'm high on him. I think he's got a future for sure, but he's not ready for the NFL with his legs and all. Everybody, you could go to McDonald's and ask the guy on the drive-through, say, "Hey, do you think JT Daniels is going to go pro this year?" You know what he'd say? No. You want some fries too?
No, he's right. Jake, you've covered these guys since they were in high school, and a lot of people were caught kind of, I won't say flat-footed, but they're a little surprised that Trey Hill announced that he was going early. And I don't know, I said it till I was blue in the face. I'm like, that was the plan. He told us relentlessly, religiously, repeatedly, yeah, I'm going to go play my next 3 or 4 years at Georgia. And I mean, he told us he was a 3-and-out guy multiple times. Just, I'm going to play 3 years and be gone. And again, but he also said that he would graduate. And that was one of the things that moved Georgia in his favor. Remember, he was looking at a bunch of other schools, but he said specifically, they showed me how I can graduate in 3 years, because they have, you show up in spring, or you show up for spring ball, or you show up that summer, you take those summer classes, you do summer classes 3 times. Sometimes they load up on the back end, and those guys graduate early. He's got his degree. It's not a shock that Trey Hill's gone.
Well, and it's honestly, I mean, it was, like you said, probably a surprise to some people, but I think it's a great thing for Georgia and for Trey Hill as well. I mean, I think both parties benefit. You had to have a kind of a great lineup for that to happen, for him to get as much game experience as he had. He's not going to make that decision if he's starting just this year. But given what he's been able to do over the course of his year, or over the course of his career, and how effective he's been, I think that's a real testament not only to Georgia's program, but also to Trey. And wish him nothing but the best. Like you said, a kid that we covered relentlessly. I said on Twitter yesterday, never seen a kid in my years doing this that would fight to get in the ring so hard. He wanted to take every single rep against every single guy at every single camp. It didn't matter who it was, where it was. He was ready to fight. And, it was always cool to watch. So I think that he's got a chance really to go to the league and be a multi-year guy. I think he can hang around for a long time, have a good career there, just because it feels like he's so hyper-focused. And I know that that's probably indicative of a lot of guys. That's probably the case with a lot of these guys. But Trey's a guy who had a plan. He stuck to that plan, and he's playing it out in front of us. So I think that it's great. I think it's a great opportunity for him.
If you look at Isaiah Wynn, you look at Solomon Kinley, both making tremendous progress in the NFL. This guy is exactly like that. And the one thing I would say, when I first started doing this show, I think maybe in the spring of his first year there, y'all were asking about guys in spring practice. And I said, number 55 is one of the top 10 players on our team. I'm not sure who he is, because I went out to practice that day and they didn't have a roster who the people were, and we had the show that day, and then I found out it was Trey Hill, and you guys are mocking me on it. Yeah, he's one of the top 10 or 5 players. But
yeah, how do you not know who Trey Hill is? Call yourself a coach.
But I went out there and watched this kid one-on-one taking on these D linemen the first day, and it's just, I mean, you guys are really good at what you do, and you know how to, but I feel like I can pick out a guy, and I'm just telling you, right off the bat, that night after the show, I said, "Who is 55?" I called Kirby. He said, "That's Trey Hill." I said, "Can you believe that?" And I mean, it was just, and it gets back to what you're saying. The first way he likes to compete,
yeah,
and he loves that. And he kind of got hurt a little bit being this moved to center because he's a natural guard. Yeah. He's the king of the thigh masters. He's got the thighs. And he's a natural guard. If he walked in any NFL room, he'd say, that guy's a guard.
Sure.
You're right. And I think, Coach, you make a good point that or you and Jake make a good point. He moved to help Georgia out. Probably didn't help out his career, but Georgia needed a center. And he moved over there and did it for you, did a great job. So we have nothing but the best for him. Dane, I'm going to switch over to you real quick. We're talking about some of those remaining guys, the Campbell, you've seen how high up he's been projected. Jordan Davis would be gigantic for Georgia. I thought Coach made a great point the other day talking about, the center of, talking about that baseball right up the middle. Same with football. You have your nose guard, your inside linebacker, your safety back there. You got to have those 3 strong guys right up the middle. Getting him back and how Georgia's defense looks completely different with Jordan Davis back there. What does Jordan Davis or Zeus or Tyson Campbell show scouts if they come back? What case do you make for them to return? Again, I can see why. I mean, their skill sets.
Wasting your time talking about Campbell, he's gone. Other 2 we can talk about, but
okay, let's keep it up with those 2.
Well, as a first rounder, Roddy.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying he hasn't said it yet. So,
and to me, that he's the guy in this class that I think it makes the most sense for to bet on himself, because he's got all those intangibles that just NFL teams crave. He's going to go to the combine and he's going to put on a freaking show. Okay. His 40s we know his 40s going to be ridiculous. He's going to test well. He's a guy that, even though maybe not necessarily you feel, does he have enough experience? Does he fit the mold? Has he made enough plays over the course of his career? I think from an intangible standpoint, he's making a smart bet to bet on himself.
AJ Terrell.
All right, Dane, go to it. I'm sorry to interrupt there.
No, I think with Jordan Davis, the thing that he can prove is that he is continually transforming his body to be the best athlete that he can be in that spot, because he can move for a guy his size. And that's been something that has really developed for him. He had to really get some good weight on and some bad weight off. And to do that in a COVID year, this is really impressive. So, I think for him, it's, are you going to be, second round, whatever? No, if he comes back and shines in the SEC and shows that he's got the body to last on that schedule, no doubt first rounder. And I don't know if you can quite say that yet. Maybe some team would look at him and say that now. But I think universally he would be with one more good season. And again, like Coach said, maybe he just loves college football and he loves Georgia and he wants to be around it. That happens with some of these guys. But another guy that I don't think we're talking about as much, we all think that Jamari Sawyer is coming back. That's kind of the information that we've had. That is huge for Georgia. To have a guy like him, and the same thing you were saying about Trey Hill, playing a position that's not his natural position this entire season, except for the bowl game, to have him come back and give some more continuity to that offensive line. He's a really good football player. He's a really smart football player, and you saw the leadership that he took on that side of the football. Georgia needs that. We know kind of what's coming back at wide receiver and at running back and even at tight end. Offensive line's a little bit of a mixed bag in some cases. So getting Jamari is massive for Georgia, just like Jordan Davis would be.
That takes me into, we'll dive into some questions here in just a little bit, but that plays in very, very well.
Some questions, but I wanted to say one thing about Jordan Davis here, because we talk about some things on the show, about how I like to go over there to watch the kids so they come in early and what they do. This year, of course, you didn't get to do any of that. I didn't get to see any of those guys. But 3 years ago, Jordan Davis was over here. He didn't enroll, he wasn't there to practice or anything, but he was there with Channing Tindall. And I started talking to him about living in Charlotte, because my parents moved to Charlotte when I was in college. And he was just so affable. And he said, and then I told him I used to coach here, but I'll never forget what he said to me that day. He said, "Coach, you can't believe how much it means to me to know that I'm going to go be playing with these guys right here. It's just such a big thrill for me to visual. I mean, he was saying, I can just visualize myself being out there and playing with those other guys that are going to make me better. And being here today really does make me feel like I'm going to be able to do it." I mean, you remember that 3 years ago, he told me that. And I think Channing Tindall's going to come on strong now. He's had some good experience here with Monty being down some this year. And, a lot of times, guys, we want that instant success. We want them to play early and all that, and then you forget about them a little bit. But I'm glad we got him here, and with him and N'Kobe, and we got some good linebackers coming in, and then of course Quay Walker, just a trained killer out there, the way he knocks people back. But I did want to throw that in about Jordan Davis, and that to me would be the one reason he would stay here, because some guys just love the college life. I mean, you just can't. Being around your brother, he talked about there in his when y'all interviewed him, he said, "I want to be with my brothers." Yeah. He wants to be with them. That's good. And
exactly. I wrote that in the 3-2-1 that he loves his teammates, and I could see him. I don't feel that there's the same rush or same plan to get to the NFL, because he realizes you don't get a lot of opportunities to play with these guys. And it's not that going to the NFL, it's more like you're not playing with brothers. You're playing, I don't want to say mercenaries, but you're playing with other professionals. It's guys that work at your office.
It's business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to say that it's not in the college ranks, but less so. And it's everyone chose to be in the same place. That's the difference, I think.
If Jordan hadn't hurt his elbow, this would be it for him. Yeah. He'd already be out. He'd be declared, but he missed four or five games and missed all that. So we got a chance to have him back, but I hope he gets what he wants, just like I hope for everyone. So let's get some of these questions here.
I wanted to touch on one last thing here on Jordan Davis. You remember the first time you met him. I also remember the first time I met him, because it was at Rivals Camp in Charlotte, and he wasn't competing, but he showed up out at the field, and I saw him probably from 150 yards away, and I said, "Holy shit, who is that? I have to go interview that person right now," because that's clearly a college football player. That's clearly a high-level college football player.
Hey, Jake, I don't know what you're going to say when you see Amarius Mims in.
Jordan Davis is like big in a way. I tell people he's big in a way that not a lot of people are big. Like there are some 6'6", 330-pound dudes in the college football ranks, NFL ranks. He's a massive human being. He's just built different.
Yeah, he can fly.
I'm going to tell you what, Jordan Davis looks like Danny DeVito compared to.
the stuff we're hearing about Amarius Mims is big, and I think Dane hit it right on the head. I expect Jamari Sawyer to come back. I mean, he could still decide to leave early. He's put in his years. But Jamari Sawyer comes back and plays inside like we saw him do this in the bowl game. I think it'd be big for Sawyer. I think he could do wonders for his draft status. But it's funny, this past year, you had to replace your tackles. You lost 2 tackles in the first round of the NFL draft. This year, Georgia loses all 3 interior linemen. So you got to come up with a new center, 2 new guards. Ben Cleveland's graduated, Justin Schaefer's graduated, Trey Hill has decided to leave early. So you've got to replace those 3 interior linemen. If you're replacing one of them with Jamari Sawyer,
here's what you're going to have. You're going to have Jones, Mims, and McClendon at tackle. You're going to have Sawyer, Erickson, Van Pran, and Ratledge at guard and center. And come on, bring it on, man.
Yeah, that's going to be a heck of a group there. I'd be very impressed to watch that. And they might add some other players that we'll talk about here in a minute.
There's some other ones too, but I'm just talking about front line. Then you got Truss and Willock. I mean, you got plenty of.
Yeah, they got plenty of horses over there. I hadn't even mentioned Clay Webb. If he's going to stick around, he might could go in the military. Heard all kinds of crazy things about Clay Webb.
Time for him to start doing it.
Yep. Before we get to the questions there and talk about maybe some of the other additions they get on different parts of the field, let's talk about our friends over at Aaron Overhead Doors. That is a customer service company that just happens to be in the garage door business. I've said it a million times, and that is now a tagline on their website. Of course, I stole it from them just in a conversation I'd had with Ryan Lucia many times, many weeks or months ago in the past, where he basically said, look, I'm a customer service guy. I just happen to run a garage door business. It's just, he could do anything and it would be a success because he understands customer service. And they'll put in residential doors, commercial doors, glass doors. They'll do repair. They'll do those crazy roll-ups. You got over 1,500 reviews, 5 stars across the board. The type of reviews that I've asked people to give us on this podcast that we don't deserve, but we'd still like anyway. Neighborhood favorite 2020 on the Nextdoor app. If you have a little Nextdoor app, they've been voted one of the neighborhood favorites because people have used them and spread the word. Best in Gwinnett, year after year after year. I think they just basically stopped competing. And if you go on the website, you can actually see the technicians and people who will come out to your house. So it's not a situation where you're getting that text, hey, we'll be at your house in 15 minutes. You have no idea who's showing up. Hell, go to the website. And on their website, you can actually set up an appointment, say, look, can you come out and look at this stuff? And they will chat with you. You can call them. It's as easy as possible. Again, it's all based on customer service. So check out Ryan Lucia and our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors. They have centers in Beaufort and Milton, Georgia, and they cover almost most of North Georgia. It's crazy. Their service areas have increased dramatically. So do that when you get a chance. If you happen to be in town, we talk about Aaron Overhead Doors being, covering a huge swath of area. If you happen to be in town, I want you to swing by our friends at Academia Brewing Company. But if you're not in town, go to your local package store and look for their beer. They're putting their beer all over the place. I've actually seen it as far south as Macon. It's going to get even further with some of the stuff that they've, some of the deals they've signed. Check out our friends at Academia Brewing Company. I know Jake would have loved this. They had a new sandwich special for New Year's. It was a black and blue sandwich with a pint of Skull. It's basically blackened chicken drizzled with decadent gorgonzola sauce, served on a toasted brioche bun. It's just amazing with their fantastic fries. And I was thinking, I like that Skull. I've had it, and that blackened chicken sandwich just screams Jake Roos. It just does. I can see him absolutely tearing it up. But their beers change all the time. That was only like a 2-day deal. The best way to keep up with all the new beers and the sandwich specials and the live bands and what's going on in Academia is just sign up for their newsletter. Go to check them out on Facebook. Go to look for Academia Brewing Company, and you can sign up for their newsletter and get all of their information. Because again, they have specials that hit just for a couple of days. They have live bands that pop up. It's almost impossible to keep up with if you're not part of that newsletter. So hit them up when you get a chance. All right, Jake, hit us up with some questions, brother.
Hey,
Well,
before we do, we have a bit of news that is, we anticipated this, but this is from Chris Porter, who's the sports director at the NBC affiliate in Jacksonville. Gator Bowl Sports announced today that former Georgia athletic director Greg McGarity has been named the president and CEO of the Gator Bowl Sports, which is something that I think we had heard about, but he will begin that role March 1st, 2021.
Such a liar. No, he's. Remember, we asked Greg McGarity specifically about this. Hey, Greg, what are you doing after retirement? Oh, I haven't really thought about it. It's like, okay.
Yeah, right. All right.
Congrats to him. That's fantastic. I think he will be a great head of the Gator Bowl. I like Greg McGarity a lot.
I'm going to paraphrase about 6 questions that we got into one question because everybody kind of on the same wavelength today. We've talked a lot about the opt-outs, the guys who are leaving early, DJ Daniel, obviously, Tyson Campbell, Eric Stokes. So people want to know, how's the secondary going to look going into 2021? Coach, any thoughts kind of off the bat? How do you replace all the experience that you're losing back there between those 3 guys? You got Richard LeCount moving on, obviously. Where do they go from here?
Yeah, I think
Mark
first
Webb,
of all,
too.
you got the safety position that's a little bit stronger because of what happened to the injury situation. The 2 guys got to play a lot more. Guys like, Chris Smith got in there, Breeny got in there. And that helps us. And of course, we got Scene back there who's going to be an All-American candidate, I think, in a lot of ways. So you got Major Burns coming back that had a lot of work, working with the 2s and 3s. So safety, I feel good about. Corner, question mark, just because of losing some really good players. You're going to have 3 corners go to the pros. I mean, Daniels will get drafted, maybe not that high, but Stokes and Campbell will go quick. So I think corner is going to be the paradox. Do you move Stevenson inside the star? If you do that, then you're going to probably end up with Kimber and Ringo at corner. Nyland Green, it's going to come along. That Daniel kid, that's safety, maybe early. But we've recruited well in the secondary, and we got there's still a place for maybe a transfer. But I really like the way had a chance to watch Ringo a little bit after he hurt his shoulder. Guys, just special. I mean, you could anybody's going to pick him out very quickly. Very physical looking, looks good in his uniform, got a good turnaround, got great explosion, very competitive, good demeanor. Nothing wrong with him except he got hurt, and it's probably going to help him all the practice he had without having to get physical, because of his shoulder. So he's a can't miss player. I mean, if there's one guy that can't miss in the secondary, it's him. Number 5 in your program, number 1 in your heart.
I think a transfer is definitely possible to kind of add some depth there. If you look at some of the more recent successful transfers that Georgia's had, it's been secondary guys. Obviously, Maurice Smith, when Kirby first got the job from Alabama. But J.R. Reed, people forget because he was here so long. He was a transfer and made quite a great career here at Georgia.
Mo Smith.
Coach, do you see Latavius Brinney staying at that star position? You see him going back to safety?
Yeah, he could play there. I mean, he's got a new life. I mean, this kid was looking at maybe, how am I ever going to get on the field? And all of a sudden it happened for him, and he showed what he's capable of. I think he's going to see he could be used in that position. He's not the cover guy you want at corner at star, but you got to also find another guy to play the dime situation, which is when you go 6 defensive backs, you have 2 stars there. So that'll be a major overhaul in our secondary. No question. O-line is going to be a major overhaul as far as getting the continuity, but probably got a little bit better group of people to pick from as far as elite guy. I mean, there's not 5 Ringos out there as compared to what we've got 4 or 5 5-star guys.
Well,
so there's not 5 Ringos, but there's 5 stars.
Oh God.
No,
that's the end of the show.
I want to kind of.
It's so bad.
The secondary, you mentioned, trying to rebuild back there and how do you kind of do that? Do you think that any of these guys that are coming in as true freshmen, that's a tough transition to make, can get their way in there? And I want to continue that question by saying, do you think that there's any of these defensive freshmen who can come in and make an impact right away?
Nyland Green, I mentioned him early on. I mean, he's definitely what you want. He's got the length. He's got the physicality. He got good football IQ. And, when you look at the list of suitors that were after him, that shows you that everybody felt that he was what you got to have. I mean, you watch this game Monday night coming up. The team that covers the best probably going to win the game. Although both teams are going to be able to run the ball, but boy, it's just hard to get guys to cover those people like that. And now they're saying Waddle might even play, which is not fair. They shouldn't let him play. No, I hope he can. The kid deserves it, and just like Devontae Smith deserves a Heisman Trophy. And when you look at Campbell, he had a great year, but he got beat on a fade route by one of those guys, and he got beat he fell down against Waddle, and Grimes beat him on a fade route, and the guy from Tennessee did. But hey, he defended great all year. So
moving out of the secondary,
one other thing, I can't wait to see how they're going to call this game Monday night, because it's going to have to be somebody from the ACC or the Big 12 or the Pac-12. And if I'm Nick and Ryan Day, hopefully you just don't know who it's going to be, but let them play, please. Let them play. It doesn't need to be where these guys are trying to earn their per diem calling so many calls. Good Lord.
Maybe don't invite the Peach Bowl crew to handle the national championship.
They won't be there.
No, Coach, I wanted to ask you, going outside of the secondary, though, we did get the question, do you think that there are some other freshman defensive players in this class that can get in and make an impact early on? I mean, obviously, Jalen Carter was a guy who was able to do that this year. You told us that. Do you see anybody else, I guess, in this class of the 20 that have signed so far that could kind of be in the mix for that as well?
Yeah, those two D linemen got a chance. The edge guy, too, the linebacker that we got, I can't think of their names. Hit me up.
Sorry and Ingram Dawkins.
Yeah, and then the linebacker that everybody wanted that signed.
Smell Munden.
Who's that?
Are you talking about Munden?
Yeah, Munden. These guys can step in, special teams, jump in there. It's an elite class of athletes. I mean, really good players. I mean, we're third in the country behind Alabama and Ohio State, and those two are playing for the national championship. We got good players coming in here, and offensively, of course, Mims right away. I mean, I don't know where Roddy got all this stuff about that guy. I wish I would have talked to him a little bit. I would have told him to temper it a little bit, but he just
all we've heard about Amarius Mims is, I won't even repeat the words, but there's usually a curse word in there, like blank, blank. That kid is big. He is a monster. He is a can't-miss guy. I mean, just people
not only big,
drool coming down their lips. And these are people who are jaded. These are people who've seen Andrew Thomas come in. They've seen, the Jamari Sawyers. They've seen Isaiah Wilsons. They've seen players, but they are just raving about Amarius Mims. And I mean, hell, he was in shorts a couple days, and it's not like he.
You ever been to a place up there like at Cherokee, and they got those bears, those mountain bears on these chains up there, and they got them. And every once in a while they cut some music on there, playing some country hoedown thing, and those bears start checking their toes out, moving around. This guy is a dancing bear now. I mean, this guy has got pro feet. He's got the tools that, if you just wanted to make a clone of offensive tackle, I don't know. The only thing you would say maybe was you can't have a helmet big enough for him or something. I don't know what it would be. God, he's unbelievable.
He's a creative player. I mean, and the thing that I always tell people about him is to keep in mind, you talk about that footwork, and I know that people think about that being a huge adjustment for those guys. This is a kid that was playing tight end his freshman year. He's a guy who can get out there and run with these guys. He can make moves. He can run routes. He knows how to do that.
That's why we were so high on Carter. Carter plays sophomore. He's playing tight end down there in Florida.
And kicking.
And Javon Walker, we're talking about him dunking a basketball. Yep. These athletic kids or guys that can throw the shot put. You got to have feet. You got to have movement. Just like the other day, Truss did a lot of good things, but he got beat on a couple swim moves and all that because of his feet. He's got to keep working on that, but he's got good feet too. But Jones, Ratledge, they got the kind of movement. And Ratledge got hurt a little bit this year because he had a concussion and during the 2 days. Then he got COVID, I think. Ratledge is a player. Jones is a player. Van Pran's a player. We'll just see what happens. Willock, good Lord, Willock. I mean, we got good players there.
He and you saw how fast he was. He and Broderick Jones chased Kirby down with the Gatorade. So
is that Willock?
Yeah, I think that was Willock with Broderick out there. That was the best I could figure. I mean, I couldn't see the number clearly, but he was a guy who was bigger than Broderick. So there's only so many guys.
That narrows it down pretty tight.
I would put Kirby up against Jimbo Fisher in a race too. I mean, Jimbo got away from those guys. They didn't really want to douse Jimbo. You know what?
Yeah, he just followed the form, but I mean and he said afterwards, he's like, I pulled a hammy. Somebody's going to pay for that. So I could definitely see some steps being run there. And we had a question from John Powell. He said, Roddy stated that should Eric or Tank go into the portal, both would end up at UGA. Is there room? And he's talking about Eric Gilbert of LSU and Cartavius Tank Bigsby.
If there isn't, there would be.
There's always room.
I was about to say,
always room.
It's a good question. It's a good question, but I mean,
is there room for Eric Gilbert? Yes. Is there room for Tank? I'm sure. I don't think Tank is going to put his name in the portal. There, he was about to, from what talking to people close to him, close to his family. I expected Tank to put his name in the portal when he did not play in the bowl game, but I think new coach down there, Harsin or whatever it is, they've worked out. I think he'll be going back to Auburn.
Brutal, man. You don't even know the guy's name, the coach of Auburn.
I didn't
Harsin or whatever. That's what it is. Harsin
I don't
or
know
whatever.
who the hell he is. I didn't know him.
Brian Harsin. Brian Harsin. Yeah. You know, a lot of it's going to have to do with, anytime you got a new coach, you got to talk to him. We'll see what happens. But we definitely got room. When you look at these opt-outs, you look at these guys going pro early, you're looking at the guys that, we're bringing in, even more guys beside the 9 that showed up. I think we got 5 or 6 more coming in because Vandergriff was playing in the championship game. And I know he's coming in early and then a couple more. So we got room, bring them on, man.
Ed Orgeron confirmed today that Eric Gilbert has entered the portal. I know that he tweeted that a couple of times, ended up deleting both of the tweets, but Orgeron confirms today Gilbert is in the portal. Obviously, LSU is not going to give up. We've heard from our end, it sounds like it's Bama, Georgia, probably as the 2 big contenders outside of Baton Rouge. And I do feel good about Georgia's chances. I told people that yesterday, but there's no doubt that going against Alabama is not going to ever do you any favors. Especially coming off of what I believe will be a national championship win on coming forward. So,
hey, Jake, Paul Strelo thinks it's Tennessee.
Who does?
Strelo, our Clemson writer.
Well,
I just kind of shocked me. I'm like, I didn't think Tennessee was in it, but
people take that natural assumption because of the quarterback being up there that played with him in high school, and you just got to think that the family and the coaches and everybody got to look at that Tennessee situation and. Which still is in doubt about what's going to happen up there as far as, they got some coaches changing. They got the NCAA thing coming up. Yesterday they had a big story about their involvement with the NCAA. So that guy from Clemson smoking some serious weed.
I just look at it and I say, if Gilbert wants to be featured, I think being on the other side of Darnell Washington, how do you even cover that? If George Pickens is on the outside and you've got Washington on one side and Gilbert on the other, backs out of the backfield, one of about 5 great receivers on the, I mean, come on. Like it is a wealth of riches that, could be featured on this offense. And you look at it and you say that would be the most talented offense in the SEC easily.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think people have a tendency to say, well, Georgia doesn't throw the tight end and all that. And maybe we haven't. But, we started to do more. But the one thing we do utilize is we use the 12 personnel, which is one back, 2 wides, and 2 tight ends more than any kind of formation for us. So it gives you a chance to get more tight ends in the game. And it gives you a chance with a guy like Arik, who's a hybrid guy that can line up wide. So you put 12 people in the game instead of having 2 tight ends or a wing with a tight end. Now you can take him and put him as an inside slot receiver, an outside guy on the weak side. And Monken's had a history of that, whether it be at Oklahoma State or head coach at Southern Miss or offensive coordinator at Tampa Bay. He's done a good job with that. They had 2 really good tight ends down there. The one kid from Alabama came in there and did well, and then he got hurt. But Monken can show him a lot of tape on that. And the one creative thing we got going for us is I wouldn't say creative, but the relationship that he has with Coach Del McGee. He's got to be on our side when you're talking about coming to Georgia. I just think that helps us a lot. That Dell was so tight with him that in spite of everything, he almost came here and he went to LSU. So we got a good shot.
I agree 100%. I think I was teasing when I said was against Missouri. They wound up throwing to Darnell Washington 3 times in a row, and I call that the hey Arik look package. But I do think just based on what Todd Monk has done in the past, he will be able to make a good case. And if you have Del McGee as your primary recruiter in that situation, that's why I predicted. I said, look, I think if Arik Gilbert does put his name in the portal, I think he winds up at Georgia. It's my prediction. I'm going to stick with it. Haven't seen anything to counter that yet. But again, even if not, you got to be excited about Darnell Washington and Fitzpatrick and Arian Smith and Bobby Blaylock back and getting Marcus. Speaking of, Coach, I mean, we were talking about we kind of looked back, and I know we have some other questions, but I kind of want to get and we did a little bit of projection in the secondary, but kind of give me your projection for that wide receiver group or that offensive line. Let's talk a little bit about the spring.
Yeah, I just feel like, first of all, you're going to have Blaylock back, who's just a steady guy. Didn't drop a pass last year. Played as a starter, was a kick returner. Saw him over in the training room a couple of days ago. His knees starting to come around good. He will definitely be a good guy to have in the room. You don't know if Robertson's coming back. I could see him doing it, but we saw the kind of speed that Smith has. Not many people on the planet got that, and got to anticipate a little bit better and throw him open instead of throwing behind him. But you got 2 pillars there in Jackson and Pickens that just have had really good careers here. And then, Rosemary, I just thought he looked really good coming out there when he was playing. And he should be, they say he should have 100% type recovery. So I think that's going to be, 5 or 6 solid guys. And of course we got some others that might step up there. We'll just have to see. But offensive line, you got Mims and Jones and Truss and McClendon are your 4 tackles. I mean, come on. And then you got inside, you got really good players there. Salyer, number 1. Then you got Erickson can play center. Van Brand can play center. They both can play guard. And then you got Radledge, who's really moved in from tackle to guard and give you a mammoth guard there. Willock, the same thing. You got Blasky. You got some of these guys coming in like Fairchild, who could move in and be an inside guy. We got something to work with there. And then back-wise, we know what we got with White and Cook, but Kenny Mack and certainly Edwards looked good. And then Milton, everything's ahead of him, and we'll see what happens. Quarterback wise, we got 3 quarterbacks, and we got Brock coming in. So, is there anything I missed on those O-line? I don't have a list there to look at.
No, that's pretty good.
That was pretty well.
I think just a point of emphasis is going to have to be pass protection. And some of that's because of the new pieces in there. But we even saw some of the running backs, again, Cincinnati struggle in pass protection. And JT Daniels is not mobile. He will not be mobile. I don't care how many procedures he has on his knee. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be running around eluding pressure. If anything, if the pass protection is just a slight bit off or there's an issue with it, it's going to be a busted play. And that's because of his lack of mobility. It's also one reason I think, I'm going to write a column on this so I can give like full thoughts on it. But a guy like Brock Vandegrift, I am not about sitting here to do like a quarterback controversy. I'm not doing any of that. But what I'm saying is a guy that can move like that needs to be involved in the offense. And when he gets into a game, let's say it's garbage time or something, run the offense. Do what Georgia does. Don't be handing the ball off just to do it or thinking the reps like that. He needs game action to be ready. And we've seen that 5-star freshman quarterbacks, if they don't play, they move around. I'm not saying he's a risk at that. I don't think he is. But I think it's going to be important to get him involved early and often, even with as good as JT Daniels has been in spurts.
I want to write an article about why you're wearing a New Orleans Pelicans.
I am a new fan of the New Orleans Pelicans. That is now my team.
It's bad enough you follow the Saints.
Well, that's a piece of the reason why, too. Look, my in-laws are all from Alabama, and they've got ties in Mississippi, and they love New Orleans and the city. And, Roddy, you were just raving about New Orleans as a city.
I love New Orleans. I can't stand the Saints.
You could keep that a secret, and no one would have to know.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see me air my dirty laundry on the show. But no, I do agree. And, Coach, let me get your take on this real quick. Any thoughts about – because here's the thing. I learned a lot this year doing the watch longs, and sometimes you would point out that a coverage or a sack or a defensive lineman was based on the fact that the quarterback couldn't move or, it was less mobile. And you're like, oh, well, if they can't run that play because the quarterback's not a threat to run, and that frees up the defense to do a lot of different things when you're not worried about that threat of the quarterback running. So the defense gets a little bit more latitude there. What about the idea of bringing in a Brock Vandegrift in a red zone situation? You bring in a running quarterback.
I mean, he's a passer first though, but I mean, at the same time, he's not, I don't want to typecast, but that's always you look at what Florida did this year with their guy. If you got a guy like that, you got to utilize it because it helps your running game so much. We saw the backside end chase down our guy several times the other day because we didn't have the threat of the keep. And with Bennett this year, we had it, and it helped our running game. Our running game was better. And the other thing that's important for us to realize is it's not JT's fault, but he really hasn't played against anybody except the Cincinnati Bearcats that are in the really good football team. So I think that's another thing that's going to help his repertoire and build up his film library going against some of these better teams. And of course, opening up with Clemson, who has some of the same major issues going into that game. I would say the team that has the best O-line and the best secondary is going to win that because they got major problems with their defensive backfield, guys leaving, graduating, going pro, offensive line, same thing. And now they've had a couple of D linemen opt out too that are going to transfer. So, everybody's talking about, well, they got that quarterback back. Yeah, but, their offensive line is going to be a work in progress and their secondary too. But that's a heck of an opening game for both teams. That's for sure. I hope we get to play it. I hope things change with the vaccine and we get to play. But I'm not for this conference only. We got to keep going with this regular schedule, hopefully.
Regardless, quarterback continuity is huge. Georgia has had 4 starting quarterbacks in the last 5 months.
Yeah,
that's true.
That kind of makes things a bit tough. Coach, you're talking about staying healthy, and I do want to mention our friends over at YourPie because they have a lot of healthy choices. A lot of people had a New Year's resolution. They're hoping to get the vaccine. They're hoping to be able to get back out into society, kind of get their life back on track. and they want to show up healthier. A lot of people know Peloton went crazy. People were buying Pelotons, and a lot of the workout from home type things have picked up. People getting a lot of exercise. Some people put on a COVID 15, 20 pounds, but others have actually lost some weight. And the reason I bring that up is because when people are making those New Year's resolutions and they're trying to exercise more, lots of times they exercise, but they don't change their diet. And that is a big deal. You have to eat right, which makes you, when I say, hey, check out our friends at Your Pie, you're like, pizza's not going to be healthy, Roddy, you're a moron. Well, I am a moron, but I will tell you that you can get healthy choices at Your Pie. They do have some fantastic vegan pizzas. They have vegetarian. They have keto. So if you're on a keto diet, you can hit that up. If you're you need to avoid gluten, they have gluten-free things. They have low carb, low cal, plant-based, everything you can imagine to keep you on the right path. They have fantastic salads. Very low calorie sandwiches. So hit up our friends at Your Pie. You will find stuff on there that match your resolve, that match your diet, that match your lifestyle. And it is, yes, it is pizza, but they have so much more than that. So check out our friends at Your Pie if you want to stay healthy, remain healthy. And then we, like Coach said, we want to have a normal schedule next year. You don't want to be looking at that all SEC schedule again. You want to play teams like Clemson. You want to play some of your out of conference guys. Well, if everyone stays healthy, then that's a good thing. And last but not least, I do want to mention our friends down at DR Construction Maintenance, Ronnie Brown. I want to wish them a happy new year. And I want everyone who is in the Liberty County, Long County, and Bryan County area, if you need, when you start looking at, hey, we need some spring cleaning done, we need a new deck, we need this maintenance done, we need that spring renovation type stuff, that you're trying to get your house up. Maybe you put stuff off because it was the holidays, or you put stuff off because it was winter. Well, as you start to slowly venture out, check out our friends at DR Construction Maintenance. Ronnie Brown, big supporter of the show, big supporter of the Dawgs, and a fantastic, if you need that kind of contractor person who will come in and will shoot you straight and not try to hit you up with a bunch of ridiculous stuff, check out Ronnie Brown at DR Construction and Maintenance. So big shout out to them. All right, Jake, you got a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah. Let's see. I like this one from ZXBY140 for Coach. He says, much has been made of the concentration of recruiting talent among fewer and fewer schools. In your opinion, does the more open transfer system serve to concentrate talent more, or does it spread it out more?
Oh, good question.
It's probably going to spread it out a little bit more, because guys, once you've seen a guy play and show his wares, you're going to be able to, be a little bit more selective in who you take as compared to a high school guy, because you've seen him do it in college. So, and most of these guys that are transferring aren't going to go to the better schools because they know they're going to have a hard time playing there. So it's going to spread out a little bit from that standpoint. But you just look at the top teams in recruiting and you see the top teams in the top 10, and it's the same thing. Facilities, coaching, summer jobs, whatever it might be. It's just, it's a powerful mechanism out there. It's just there for you. I don't see a lot changing at the top unless people changing and taking over the schools. You just got to, plus you got to have a big time quarterback. I mean, that's the difference.
The verbiage on signing day is going to change. It's not going to be for the next 3 or 4 years. It's just going to be for now. For now, I'm going to commit to.
Until I show what I can do at this school.
Camp.
Today I am committing to.
Until I show out and then I open up my recruitment a second time. Yeah.
All right. We're going to wrap up on this one because I know that this is probably on the forefront of most people's minds watching this show. I'm going to throw this to all of you guys. Blocker 57 over on the vent at UGASports.com says, with Alabama losing their 3 Heisman finalists plus other contributors, Clemson losing Trevor, Ohio State losing Fields, and Florida losing basically everybody, do you all believe this is our best chance at a natty since Kirby took over? We lose a lot too, but we seem to have more coming back than most. Thoughts?
Crapshoot. I mean, a lot of it, who knows what's going to happen. Bama's still going to be good. I mean, they just signed the best class probably in the last 4 or 5 years as far as overall talent. Who's going to have the quarterback? I think that's going to be the number one thing. All these guys are losing their quarterback. Fields is out. Clemson's losing theirs. Alabama's losing theirs. And Florida theirs. So we got ours back. We'll see what happens. But I think it's just wrong to project a national championship at this point. I think we're definitely the favorite in the East for sure. And we'll see what happens from there. And we had some bad things happen to us against Florida, not having Pickens, among which was and Pickens, Davis, and LeCount. Well, that was tough. But I did want to tell you, because somebody was asking me at the grocery store the other day why I didn't tell any jokes anymore. But I got one for you just in case. This guy his boss phoned him. He says, "Is everything okay at the office?" And he said, "Yes, it's all under control. Been a very busy day. I haven't stopped." So the boss said, "Can you do me a favor?" I said, "Of course. What is it?" He said, "Speed it up a little. I'm in the foursome behind you."
Oh, sounds like UGASports, actually.
Got to tell a few jokes.
None of you idiots can play golf worth a damn.
A lot of people are talking about players, though, Jake. I think the assistant coaches, that's one thing to watch. Who does Ohio State lose, if anything? If Urban Meyer's taking anyone from there, if he gets the Jaguars job. We're already seeing Steve Sarkisian's going to leave Alabama. Does Clemson lose stuff off their staff? Could Georgia lose some assistants? That's a big deal for continuity's sake, for play calling in terms of Alabama. So those kind of changes make a big deal. So I don't think we have those answers yet.
I'll say the same thing. When I'm not on the golf course making fun of Jake and stuff, I will say that when you want to say that is this Georgia's best chance to win a national title, that's tough because I always think of what people would do when Tiger Woods was playing. Do you take Tiger or do you take the field? And there's the best bet to take the field because there's just so many more options there. So I think that Georgia stands a good place, but you're replacing that secondary. You got to rebuild the offensive line. You got a lot of great talent there. And I think that's where you will see Georgia's back-to-back recruiting title show up. When you're replacing those, Georgia's going to rebuild better than it has ever, just because you've got better talent. So, but now you're doing exactly what Ohio State and Clemson and Alabama were doing. You're rebuilding with those great talents. So I think this puts you on a footing, but I don't want to get too far down the road. Is it their best chance? Yeah, I mean, those other teams are losing stuff, but they're also rebuilding just like Georgia is. So, I mean, think about it. You're without LeCount. You're without Azeez Ojulari. For every guy that you could point to that Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State is losing, you could point out to an All-American. You're losing to Ben Cleveland. You're losing a Justin Schaefer. You're losing top talents. You're losing Eric Stokes. You're losing Campbell. So you can say the same thing about Georgia that you're saying about those other teams that they're losing some great talents, and why should they even be in the running with those guys out? But hopefully you are rebuilding just as strong as those other guys are, and I think Coach nails it when he says, "Yeah, say you're the favorites in the East, but I wouldn't go past that."
Fair.
Just because, and I would say that every year. I don't care if you're getting everybody back. I wouldn't say that I'm always going to take the field just because sometimes it's just bad luck.
I'll say this: I don't know that I'd call them a favorite to win it. I do think, though, that
was that the question?
I think that it's perhaps their best chance. I do think, given all the outside stuff that's going on, knocking off Trevor Fields out, Alabama, a lot of pieces to rebuild on that offensive line. I think that you've got a lot of turnover in the blue bloods, the guys who may have prevented you from getting to those positions in the past. I'm not saying that Georgia's the favorite, but I do think it's a good shot.
Don't forget two teams, Oklahoma, and that's not because of my situation.
There you go, bringing up Oklahoma again. Every conversation got to be about
if Kellen Mond comes back, which he's talking about doing, Texas A&M, because they've recruited pretty well, and Texas A&M's formidable team there. So we're talking about those 4 or 5, but watch out for those two.
Agreed.
I knew the coach was going to work the Sooners in somehow or another.
What a homer.
No, it's
I don't think anybody could look at that Florida game and not see that Oklahoma has made the most improvement any team in the country since early in the year. And that part of it was having two guys that were ineligible the first 6 games made a tremendous difference in their football team.
Should be the best quarterback battle, I think, in the nation next year as well between Spencer
I mean,
Rattler.
everybody's talking about Spencer Rattler, but wait till Caleb Williams gets out there.
Oh boy, yeah, I think you're both right. Speaking of, I do want to expound upon the fact that even if Georgia has a good team, and even if you have Texas A&M and Oklahoma, I mean, how many teams will the ACC get into the playoffs next year?
There's 4 playoffs. They'll get 4 in.
That's the only way they'll win it.
Is Notre Dame in the ACC anymore? I don't know.
Shout out to the ACC for going 0-6.
0-6.
2 in the playoffs. Oh. I'm sorry. I couldn't let the show go by without making fun of the ACC. And I've been on a Twitter tear making fun of Notre Dame. And again, they for some reason we automatically give them a spot in the playoffs or in the BCS or whatever, and they get their butts handed to them every time. And the reason I bring that up is because Coach mentioned Texas A&M, and I really think that, yes, Texas A&M lost early to Alabama in week 2. They lost by 28. But the team we saw at the end of the year was not a team that was going to lose by 28 to Alabama. But Notre Dame, yes, Notre Dame gets blown out.
And the thing that Notre Dame did do that A&M, they played Alabama better than A&M did, and they played Clemson better than Ohio State did. So come on now, they beat Clemson too. So I'm not a big Notre Dame fan, but I think Notre Dame certainly showed that they, have they're comparable. But
they could have been there right at number 5. I'd have given them that. But I think Texas A&M should have been in the playoffs. And if Vaughn comes back, I think
Notre Dame homer.
Yeah,
I'm not a Notre Dame.
Oklahoma, Notre Dame, the right.
I'm just making the comparison of about how good they played against. Of course, they got cheap covers, backdoor cover, and to make the score look better. But anyhow, you know what? I'm so old. I used to be in Ben-Hur's pit crew.
And with that, we're going to take a break. With that, we will end the show. We'll take a break until next week. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday at noon. We will be back, and we'll be talking championship game. And, of course, we'll be answering all of your Georgia football questions. You have a week to come up with a good question. Hit us up. Jake had a great hot board recap yesterday on the site. You need to go check that out. Dash has a good story about JT Daniels and Todd Monken, how they're getting on the same page. If you want to ask questions about Todd Monken and the offense and stuff like that, be sure to hit us up next week. We have a ton of great content coming at UGASports.com. Check it all out. But if you're only watching the show, send us some questions. We'll answer them next week at Tuesday at noon, and we will talk to you later.